Again, you shouldn't be able to sell something that you never owned and you never deliver.
Yeah, my name is Richard of SeriousNews.com, and I'm making this video hoping to bring out people to come and research and investigate what I'm about to tell, and the connecting of all the dots into the financial meltdown and what caused it, and also get to the point of what caused the flash crash on May 6th, 2010. Basically, a Russian math whiz named Sergei Lenikov was hired by Goldman Sachs in May of 2007. He worked there from May 2007 until July 2009, all during the period of the financial meltdown, up until his arrest by the FBI on July 3rd, 2009. What Sergei Lenikov did was he transferred over 1,000 secret codes and files to a German website. My question is, what is the connection to Sergei Lenikov when the FBI arrested him on July 3rd, where he was sending over 1,000 secret codes and files to a German website, and the news media did not cover the story, but now, May 18th, Germany banned naked short selling. Did the government in Germany reveal the secret codes of Goldman Sachs? And that's why the ban took place, and now the other European countries are going to probably do the same thing, as Wes stated earlier in the show.
Well, I'll let you guys have an educated guess on all this. You know more about it than me.
First, we can't tell you what the association is between that. If I were to speculate, which I'm not prone to speculate, I would say it does have a connection. But I have no legal or factual basis to tell you that. I can tell you that Germany has already experienced over the last 10 years a big awareness of this naked shorting impact. But like most countries, until it started to impact them personally and as a country, they didn't really do anything about it. But the word on the street is it has been impacting an enormous amount of companies over there. As you may or may not be aware, one of the components that the bad guys use, including organized crime, is they go and park a lot of these failed deliveries and other transactions in these naked shorting or other schemes where they're stealing money on the German exchange, typically the Frankfurt exchange. So companies, as you would imagine, are having their company listed without their permission, which incidentally it doesn't take their permission, on the Frankfurt exchange. And they're wondering, why in the hell are we on the Frankfurt exchange? And the answer is because you're fixing to get robbed. And so I think Germany has finally woken up and said, look, we've got to stop this in order to preserve the integrity of the companies that are being principally traded on the several German exchanges.
Well, and what about the Russian connection? You have a Russian bank connection that you talked about earlier.
The Russians are in this in a huge way. The best example I can give you of that is the whole debacle with Refco. Refco, as you recall, out of Chicago, was one of the largest option companies, public company, was a very successful IPO. I think had over $1 billion market cap, as I recall, back at that time. Well, at the end of the day, Bob Bennett pled out, and in that document and in the filings that Refco, if you went to their bankruptcy filings, what you would see is that Refco was associated with a bank in Austria called Bauwag Bank. Bauwag Bank, according to all the newspaper articles I read, was associated with the Russian mob and the labor unions in Austria. And basically, that whole bank was associated with Bennett and ultimately was a part of this whole scheme that resulted in about $900 million of failed deliveries if you look at the bank schedules, the bankruptcy schedules of Refco.
So it was all about naked short selling, where the government, for the first time, stepped in. The SEC Commissioner, Christopher Cox, announced that naked short selling is ruining the market, and they had to step in and protect 19 of the top banks in the United States. And in June of 2008, a few months after the Bears and Stearns, there were secret meetings in Russia with Hank Paulson, the Secretary-Treasurer, and the Goldman Sachs Board of Directors. I've made that in a previous video of mine, and also Jesse Ventura has confirmed it in a video of Wall Street Conspiracy, which was shown on True TV after my video came out. And now we move forward a few more months to the financial meltdown of Lehman Brothers, which happened September 15, 2008. At that point, Lehman Brothers went under. They were under attack through naked short selling. And then eventually the government again stepped in because they had lifted the ban from when Bears and Stearns went out. They had lifted a ban around August 14th, don't quote me on that, but right around that time frame. And a massive counterfeiting scheme took place again where they started attacking Lehman Brothers. Of course, they went down. The government stepped in after the financial meltdown of September 15th and announced again that you cannot naked short 799 financial stocks. What about the rest of the stocks trading in the stock market? Here the government is for years denying short selling, which are the weapons of mass destruction as they tried to destroy the American financial system. And that system is created through, at the DTCC, there's a program called the Stockball Program that these hedge funds and brokerage houses manipulate the system, kept the money for the shares, and never delivered the shares, failed to deliver the shares. It was all done through the DTCC and the Stockball Program. On April 15, Board of Director for Goldman Sachs was indicted, tied to the Galleon insider trading case. The next day, April 16th, the government brought civil fraud charges against Goldman Sachs, which later on down the road on July 15, 2010, they had to pay a $550 million fine. And it was pretty much about the housing market scandal. Now, here's a very important point I want to make. As the pressure was mounting against Goldman Sachs, the real crimes that devastated this country was the naked short selling of the counterfeit shares, which was massively exploited through that hole in the system at the DTC called the Stockball Program that created these phantom shares of all companies. On May 4th, Goldman Sachs was fined $450,000.
Well, Goldman Sachs pays a $450,000 fine a few weeks ago for naked shorting. Are you kidding me?
That's my point. So how much did they take out the back door? I don't know. I can tell you that it's a massive problem. I told you in a show several weeks ago that Andrew Cuomo had told me he thought the scope of the problem in the United States is $90 trillion in all these failed to delivers, which naked shorting is a part of that. But all of this is really just a form of stealing, and it's being done worldwide. And one of the biggest problems is there's not one company or one organization that monitors all this worldwide.
During the financial meltdown that was coming to an end, here Goldman Sachs, as Bernie Madoff is on the news for a Ponzi scheme, they failed to deliver 385 times. Should have been all over TV, but instead there was a car bomb in New York that day, and that was all over TV, and nothing ever came about Goldman Sachs counterfeiting stocks on Wall Street.
Sitting here in front of Fast Money, and it's pretty sad that this show does not tell the real truth to the American people about Wall Street and the manipulation of stock prices.
Now, 2 days later, as Goldman Sachs is now being pressured, the flash crash happened, May 6, 2010. 2 days later, it is my opinion that they were sending a message to Washington, back off on this naked short selling story, which is the weapons of mass destruction that tried to destroy the American financial system. I want to move forward now. So we got May 4th, Goldman Sachs guilty of counterfeiting shares 385 times. 2 days later, flash crash. And as of today, 14 months later, July 2011, we still have no arrest and no answers to what caused that flash crash. On May 18th, Germany, unannounced to the world, put a ban on naked short selling. Now remember what I told you. On July 3rd, 2009, the Russian computer math whiz that worked for Goldman Sachs sent over 1,000 files to that German website. So what did they find out through their intelligence on what was really going on with this naked short selling?
The cash has been washed. You know, when we talk about cleansing money, it's been cleansed. It's left from the U.S. and many times gone overseas, handled over there, cards placed on cards back, and individuals that they want to have these cards. They're not giving these cards to everybody, keep in mind. It's only a few that's getting a significant benefits, as it has always been in the mob gangs and the activities. Only a few at the top that's really getting the big money.
Now, Newsweek magazine had a coverage of Sergei Lenikov's arrest in a June 7, 2010 article, which was similar to what my video that came out on May of 2010 called Wall Street Dirty Secrets, Part 1. So they mentioned Sergei Lenikov's arrest. Now let's examine what took place. After that article came out in June, within 10 days, it was all over the American news about the Russian spies. And all said and done, 2 or 3 weeks, the red-headed bombshell from New York, you know, and the media didn't report nothing. All they said was she was a knockout and she should be in Playboy, and all she was doing was sipping coffee at Starbucks and on her laptop. The true facts that are now coming out through Deep Capture and writer Mark Mitchell is that Anna Chapman was working for these hedge funds that were naked short selling phantom shares into the market. During the month of June, it's all over the TV news about these Russian spies, but there's really no investigative reporting on who these people are other than them saying that they were Russian spies drinking coffee at Starbucks on a laptop. It was the furthest from the truth, and if you research Deep Capture, you'll begin to understand who these people really are and who they worked for, which was the hedge funds. So now we have this all over TV. At the end of June, I don't know the exact date, they turn around and make a swap, 12 spies for 4 spies sent back to America. And you haven't heard nothing of it since. So it is my opinion that the flash crash was created by this massive naked short selling by all these hedge funds, including these Russian spies who work for the hedge funds. And to this day, there's still no answers to what caused that flash crash. To connect all the dots and these dates so that we can get help from the media, the national media, to investigate these allegations. What I'm pointing out to you is facts. These dates and times are accurate, but I'm asking for help to come in and investigate this story because it is the biggest story that will ever be told about these weapons of mass destruction of counterfeit shares on Wall Street that devastated the economy and caused the true financial meltdown on Wall Street. So please come join us, because what I see on TV is the news media for the past 2 years talking about jobs, jobs, jobs. Well, I want to explain to you what naked short selling has done. They collect all the money. They never deliver the shares to the shareholders that think they bought them. They keep the money. They come out with false stories. They flood the stock with phantom shares, which drives the price down. And then eventually all these companies go bankrupt. Then they keep the money and they never have to account for all the shares. If it goes bankrupt, there's no accountability for any of the shares. And I've been fortunate enough to be involved in this story for 32 months trying to get the truth told. And it's pretty sad that the national media has yet to tell the story. And I was a narrator in a movie called Stock Shock. I've made about 14 of my own personal videos with Angelica Casa to try to get this story out. Deep Capture, Mark Mitchell is writing unbelievable stuff that connects all of what's going on and ties it back to that executive order just signed into law. Yet still to this day, the news media refuses to tell the story. I cannot believe how this is not all over TV, because when you bankrupt companies on Wall Street, them companies are bankrupt and destroyed, but the reality is small business companies in the United States is what creates jobs. And these bankers were manipulating the system through the naked short selling and destroyed all these companies. In return, there's no jobs, or there's no great technology like a cancer drug like Verigen, or technology and phone like Egotech, which these two stories were told in an up-and-coming movie that hasn't been released yet called Wall Street Conspiracy, which is the greatest piece of information I've ever seen in all of my research. And hopefully one day this movie will come out so the whole world will be able to see it, including the world's largest lawsuit in the history of the world, which is a suit, CMKM Diamonds versus the SEC and the ex-commissioners Christopher Cox, who finally admitted that naked short selling in 2008 was the cause of the financial meltdown, although TV media hasn't reported it. So it's the world's largest lawsuit in the history of the world in California court. And right now, stay tuned. There's supposed to be an opening brief at the 9th Circuit in California that's going to come out by August 24th, 2011. I'm asking you to come investigate what this lawyer, Al Clifford Hodges, is alleging in this lawsuit, which is similar to what President Obama is saying in this emergency executive order. The exact same things about the criminal activities of these organizations throughout the world that have hit and attacked the financial system and the economy of the United States. Come in and investigate what we've been saying, what Patrick Byrne has been saying, what Deep Capture has been saying, what my videos have been saying. Why isn't this all over TV? You want to talk about jobs, jobs, jobs? Where are the jobs? This is what destroyed the jobs. The massive manipulation of naked short selling, which is counterfeit phantom shares that flooded the stock market. Basically want to explain this rabbit hole path I've been down since the same month Bernie Madoff got arrested. December 08, I got involved in this naked short selling and trying to uncover and expose this hole in the system that no one in the news media is talking about. At that point, I had made an investment. Long story short, I ended up being in a movie called Stock Shock. I was the narrator. It was all about naked short selling. And then later on, I got involved in what is known as the world's largest lawsuit, CMKM Diamonds versus the SEC commissioners. And that's soon to be heard in California 9th Circuit Court on August 24th, 2011. Please come and investigate what I'm saying here. Now, I'm just got done filming for a movie, Radio Wars, that's supposed to come out September 2011. And it's going to reveal some of the news media manipulation, and also some parts of this movie is going to talk about naked short selling, which I'm going to talk about. We also have, I think, the founding father, and hopefully goes down in the record books and history books, as the guy that took on Wall Street. His name is Patrick Byrne. He's the CEO of Overstock.com. He's been fighting this story when everybody denied that naked short selling existed. Patrick Byrne says it's such a crack in the system that it can destroy the American financial system that he's not going to settle, not even for $20 billion. He says the American people and the world needs to know this story, and it's scheduled to go to trial December 5th, 2011. So I'll reach out to you again as news media people. Please follow up, investigate what I'm saying, connect all the dots, the dates and times, and please cover this story that should be all over the news because it affects everybody in the world. this should be the O.J. Simpson trial, or say the Casey Anthony trial that got 24/7 coverage. It's all real. It involves trillions of dollars of counterfeit stocks and bonds and you name it, bundling up of mortgages. It's what destroyed the United States financial system and basically the whole world. Another segment I want to talk about is what came out in June 20th of 2011. There was a settlement with the biggest banks and brokerage houses in the United States, Goldman Sachs and the rest of them, J.P. Morgan, with Taser, and a lawyer named Wes Christian was part of that. He was in my first movie, Stock Shock, and they state, and it's also in this new movie that's coming out, the evidence against these brokerage houses and how they took counterfeit shares, phantom shares that they knew were counterfeit, created an account, a flip account, turned around and sold these counterfeit shares from short to long positions through the banks of New York, through night trade and security. It's all in this movie, Wall Street Conspiracy. But in this settlement, it states right on there how they sold phantom shares from short to long. And it's kind of what the movie says, but these banks signed a confidential agreement because they don't want the world to know what they did. And why isn't the news media covering this story? We're talking about the biggest banks in the world counterfeiting shares. And it's not being reported on TV. Being a CMKX shareholder, I want to tell some of the things that we try to bring out the truth and have the media come in and report on this court case. We've gone with a fellow shareholder, Cameron Shaw, and myself and two other shareholders on April 22nd, 2011. We gave a presentation to the Office of Financial Regulations with the chief, the director, and the head legal counsel. I also went to Boston Securities Division on June 22nd, 2011, and presented them with the same evidence. I did give the Florida office that movie, but I didn't give it to Boston because it hasn't come out yet, but I was given the okay to give that movie to the Florida Office of Financial Regulations. So we've brought it to their attention. We're reaching out to them, connecting the dots, so they're tied to this. They're supposed to be looking out for the investors of the United States, yet they haven't really done nothing for us. But I at least have it on record now that we presented this evidence to them. So I'm going to show you this document that was signed, went into law July 25th, 2011, the Emergency Executive Order signed by President Obama. So he basically says, I, Barack Obama, President of the United States of America, find that the activities of significant transnational criminal organizations, such as those listed in the annex to this order, which was the Russian connection, which I explained to you, with all them spies being arrested, the Italian mafia, Japanese and other Asian countries, and the Mexican mafia. So this executive order is all about these four entities, criminal organizations, and also other dangerous people. So what he goes on to say is, they have reached such a scope of gravity that they threaten the stability and the international political and economic systems. Such organizations are becoming increasingly sophisticated and dangerous to the United States. They are increasingly entrenched in the operations of foreign governments and the international financial system, thereby weakening democratic institutions, degrading the rule of law, the undermining economic markets. These organizations facilitate and aggravate violent civil conflicts and increasingly facilitate the activities of other dangerous persons. I therefore determined that significant transnational criminal organizations such as them four that I mentioned constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and the economy of the United States, and thereby declare a national emergency to deal with that threat. This came out July 25, 2011. Follow up with the largest lawsuit in the history of the world, the deep capture report by Mark Mitchell that explains all these Russian spies that got arrested, connect the dots to Sergei Lenikov and Goldman Sachs, all these hedge funds that were manipulating the stock market through the DTC and that stock ball program. And this is what you call the true, real weapons of mass destruction, which was the phantom shares that have flooded the Wall Street stock market and bankrupt all these thousands of companies, which in turn abolished all the jobs, and why the unemployment rate is at 9.2% in July of 2011 and is not going nowhere because the system is still corrupt and the phantom shares are still in the system.
This is the most incredible criminal conspiracy I have ever seen. People there are transactions that go 8 and 9 times offshore, and people, suddenly you've got players in the Ukraine or something, and Russia, and Russian banks and Russian hedge funds, and the Bahamas, and here and there.
The transient world, this electronic age that we live in, they can bing it around from Liechtenstein to Bahamas to Bermuda to Cayman to the Canary Islands, etc. And that would take you a year to two just to discover that one series of transactions in legal discovery. That's why this has taken, an extremely long period of time to really uncover. The reality is, though, it doesn't just exist in small companies. Much like the whole naked shorting and counterfeiting scheme and all types of financial instruments in this country.
That I think the government has been covering up because it is that big of a story. Where is the TV news media to connect the dots and finally do some true investigative reporting? Because it affects the whole world, this story. It's going to go down as the biggest story ever told. And I just want to tell a little bit about myself. I created that website, seriousnews.com, to try to bring these videos to the people, to educate them, and also use Twitter to get the word told through social media networking. I just want to say a funny thing I thought of the other day. I actually heard part of it on TV. Is when the meltdown happened, all this talk about the banks were too big to fail. Well, it's the news media. When are you going to protect the people of the world and the United States? And why is it the people are too big to fail? Where is the help for the people? We the people. Are we too big to fail, the people? Are we too big to fail, the people?